Hudson and Scotty B need a therapist. Man, am I so glad we've got one. Of all the time, Scotty, I'm Hudson Hot, Scotty Blaisdell, my partner in crime, and Alan Wagner, our therapist. It's been a week. It has been a week since we've last done the podcast together.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Yeah, to be 100% honest, about the same.
Okay. Well, for folks who didn't hear the last podcast, I know a lot of folks did, but had to do with loss and grieving of sorts with loss of a job that was a dream job for Hudson.
It was 30 years of my life that I dedicated to something and put every ounce of my love and passion into and all the different feelings. And, I was thinking about this because I think all of us have experienced some sort of depression in our life. And I thought maybe we talk about it openly and honestly because a lot of people who are depressed, and even if they're secretly depressed, they put on a happy face and they do things to hide their depression. And I don't know how they do it, honestly. But I mean, we have an expert who deals with things like this, and I thought that maybe we could talk about depression and maybe just talking about it can sort of help.
Well, Alan, it's obviously not a healthy thing to do to pretend you don't have it, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been a week. And for anyone listening to this now, it took a while to sort of grieve. Even after that last episode was pretty emotional. And the responses that came in, because I think a lot of people really related and it resonated. Living with you and being your husband, obviously, I'm privy to a lot of things and hearing a lot of it and seeing a lot of it. And it's heartbreaking, to watch someone shine and then just the light just to go out like that. I was talking about depression a lot this week with clients and last week. And I think it's something that a lot of people are going through right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. And I think that's when people struggle because to have hope, you have to have certainty. And if you don't have certainty, you're just living in the present. And if the present doesn't feel very good, it can feel like eternity. And so what you were saying earlier really touched me, Hudson, because you were talking about the people who put a mask on and walk around like they're fine when they're not. And the major depression in the clinical DSM, those people can't get out of bed. That's a different story. But people who are touching that, but not quite, they can get out of bed. They can go to their jobs, they can parent their kids, they can be with their partners, and they can just get lost in doom scroll, like we said in another podcast, or watch TV and just kind of get away with it. And it's sad because I'm thinking about a session I had yesterday. And it resonated a lot because it's the truth of what most people do when they have someone in their life that's depressed, whether it's a friend, a partner, is they tell them it's going to get better. They tell them, don't worry, you're going to find another job, or there's more fish in the sea, or this is going to turn around for you, don't worry, or you should do this, or you should do that. And they want to give you hope, which seems like a good thing, but it's actually the wrong thing to do because it's selfish and it's for them. As people, we have a hard time sitting in depression with the people we care about. And so even though it seems like, oh, but why don't we go here and look, you have gratitude in your life, you have this, you have that. When you say things like that to a person, it doesn't make them happy. And they don't say, oh my God, you're right, I should be happy. It just tells them you're not the person to hold them. You're not able to sit in that depression. I know we'll probably get into this a little bit. At least I'll speak to myself of a time I was majorly depressed and what that was like for me and how I handled it. But I think everyone needs different things in those moments, but depression is huge.
I think what Alan just touched on is something I appreciate him putting into words because I was very aware of the people who gave me that glancing blow of help, if you will. Hey, it's going to be okay. I'm here for you. Let me know if there's anything I can do. And that's fine. But it was I think of specifically a person who said, hey, I'm going to grab you. Let's go have lunch. And
Hmm.
then that person sat with me and let me say a lot of what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And tears came. And that touched and moved me and helped me more than, 100 people saying, I care.
Yeah.
I think that I feel like I have you, Scotty, and you're here. And who would have thought that, my radio partner of 20 something years is, and my husband would be my go-to when I'm feeling so low.
Just
Because
to be clear, Just to be clear, there was a separation between those two,
Right.
that
Right.
I was the radio partner and
Right.
Alan's the husband.
We always have to explain that. It's the weirdest thing.
There
Yeah.
It's
used to be
true.
questions of, are you married? And I was like, no
All the
way.
time, people would always think
You
that.
think I
Yeah.
would talk to her that way or she would talk to me that way if we were married?
No way.
Anyway,
Yeah.
please, I didn't mean to
But
cut you off.
no, it's okay. But I think that I think there is something to be said about the people that are there for you.
Yeah.
A question though, Alan, because we've used the term depression,
Mhm.
and it took a long time for me to understand the difference between anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And then I think there's, as you said, people that have this I can't get out of bed kind of depression, and people that are just super sad. How do you
Right.
differentiate the two?
I think there's a lot of buzzwords. It's like we talked about this in another podcast about everybody's a narcissist or everybody has ADHD or
You
everybody's
go to the extreme.
right. There's a lot of people who generalize like I'm so depressed and feel so depressed. And that word comes out, which is in their mind sad. I'm feeling sad or disappointed. And there's a difference between all of us as adults feeling sad and disappointed because that happens a lot in different scenarios. Things don't always meet our expectations. That's not depression. I mean, if I was to go over just the clinical symptoms of depression, it would be fatigue. And so in many ways, insomnia, sleeping too much, difficulty getting out of bed, lack of physical strength. It could be cognitive issues where you just can't concentrate. You can't make decisions. You can't remember things. It could be isolation. It could be feelings of worthlessness, even possible suicidal ideation, just feeling like the world would be better without you or you let everybody down and just cycling and perseverating on that feeling that you make everybody's life worse. And then it could manifest physically and it could definitely manifest in suicide. But when I think about the time that I was depressed, because look, I live a life where there's joy and there's sadness, there's taxes that make me sad and upset, there's Costco shops that are too much that make me upset. So we all have our things that will make us feel sad or hopeless or frustrated. But I think back to real depression, and there was a time I remember maybe like 25 years ago, and I was in between jobs. And I just remember, staying up late till 2, 3 in the morning, watching those infomercials. If anybody listening knows what those are, those were those things, where
I
you
remember Miss
paid,
Cleo.
yeah, you'd watch a paid commercial at 2 in the morning when the network signed off. And that was what was on, was
You
just
you want this boat? Be
correct. It's
like
like,
me.
yes, exactly. Get rich, and like all of these funny
She
things.
liked me.
But or little like ab things or like just like weird things that people
Yeah,
were advertising.
ShamWow and all that. Yes.
Yeah, like
Jim, wow.
but it's like in those days, I would sit in bed isolating and I wouldn't call my friends. I wouldn't answer their phone calls. If anybody knows what this is, it's called screening calls when you used to have an answering machine and people would call you and be like, hello, are you there? And you'd have the choice of either picking up or pretending you weren't there. So you could later say like, oh, I missed your call. I'm sorry. I was out doing whatever. And you can't do that anymore with a cell phone because people are like, hey, man, why don't you read my text? It says red, like
Yeah.
you're much more accessible. But back then I was having trouble getting out of bed. I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody because I had nothing to say. People could talk about their jobs, but what was I going to talk about? Infomercials. And so I remember just not wanting to go out to do fun things. My friends were trying to invite me to concerts. They were trying to invite me to bars. And what I learned was that there were my friend, at least I had really good friends and I was lucky. My friends at the time, I remember would come to my apartment and they would just bang on the door. We know you're there, Alan. Open up the door. And I finally would open up the door. They would say, get in the effing shower. I would get in the shower. I'd put on my clothes. I'd get in the car and we'd go out. And once I was out, I'd feel better. But I never had the strength to shower and then have to drive. And then if there was no parking, I'd have to do a valet. Like I would overwhelm myself with hopelessness to stay home alone and just pity myself. And so I don't know if you guys know what that's like, but there's those moments where it's like you can't talk to people in your life. You feel ashamed of where you're at. So you don't even want to tell people, especially in a town like LA where everybody's embellishing things and bragging. It's hard.
Well, yeah, Alan, that totally resonates with me.
Yeah.
For me, and part of it is how I grew up. I don't know how it was other places in the country, but it was the kind of suck it up,
Mhm.
be strong, all that sort of stuff. Real men don't cry. All these type of things that just protect how you are outwardly,
How
but
you're
inside,
perceived.
Yes, inside there could be a total breakdown, but nobody would ever see it. And then someone just goes off the deep end because you can't just hold it in all the time. That's my opinion.
Mhm.
And through life, I kind of held on to that. I remember going to my doctor various times, and they do these checklists now when you check in, like how many times during the week were
Yeah.
you this, or how many times did you feel?
Right?
And it's a mental health checkup. So it
Mhm.
was during COVID, and I was really going through stuff, but at the same time, I kept telling my doctor, I'm fine, I'm fine. And he just kept kind of pushing it, almost like he saw something and I wasn't saying it. And then, as you guys know, and I don't know if I've shared on a podcast, but I lost my oldest son. And it was such a dramatic
Oh,
and horrific thing. I had no more defense to put up. I just said, yes, I have
it's
nothing.
unimaginable, Scotty. It's
I,
the loss of a child is unimaginable.
I get
and,
that.
and as Alan, as you were talking, it was exactly what it was. I mean, people are trying to help you, and I couldn't make decisions. That's one of those things that you mentioned. I couldn't decide on dinner. I couldn't decide what to wear. I couldn't nothing. I couldn't make a decision. Any sort of decision at any level. I mean, obviously there was the sadness and the grief and the tears and all of those things. And then my wife changing because now she's different because she was the mom of three and now she's the mom of two, and she's never going to be the same. And so our relationship had to change. And it was a time when I couldn't see straight. Everything was foggy in my life. And I finally just said, yeah, this is a dramatic thing, but it revealed that I had a lot of depression inside me that I just could no longer deny. And I had to get help. I had to get counseling. And there was medications. I was never going to take medications, but okay, I'll try it. I had to get completely humbled out and raw before I finally sought the help that I really needed all along. And it's been a world of difference. And yeah, the grief goes on, but the one foot in front of the other and those steps that you have to take to move forward, sometimes you just need help.
There's
Just
I,
want to give you a hug, Scotty.
I didn't know that it's Scotty, and I can't even tell you what's going through my mind right now for you, and I'm so sorry. I and when I look at, what that's like to I can't relate to that. I think we've all lost pets, or it's not the same as a child.
Not the same.
And it's like a family. When I talk to people who've lost children or lost siblings, it's like a reminder all the time, whether it's their birthday or it's a holiday or it's Mother's Day or it's like there's constant triggers all in all. But I'm glad that you sought help because that's what I did. I went and saw a therapist. And I'm glad that you were open to medication because I'm not even a therapist who pushes medication, honestly. But there was a time in my life 2 years ago where I did take medication and it really helped. I took it for 6 months and it really, really saved me because I might have given up. And, what I was going to say, and I think we were saying this off camera earlier, is, when I talk to clients, it's really that ability of a person, we all need different things in those moments, whether it's a therapist, whether it's just our support systems, or whether it's just to be alone sometimes, but in a healthy way. Maybe it's to journal. Maybe it's to get stuff out yourself, because you can't do it in front of another person because you just can't let your guard down, so to speak. You can't let yourself be vulnerable. But the tragedy of our society, if you're listening to this, is that when we're around depression, and I think if you're listening to this, whether you have been depressed or you are depressed or your husband's depressed or your wife is depressed or your kids are depressed or someone in your life is depressed, and they come to you and they talk about it, do you listen or do you just tell them it's going to be great? It's going to be fine. Or is it about you? Can you tolerate being around hopelessness? Because at least for me, what I needed sometimes was to not put that mask on. It was too much energy to be like, everything's fine. What's up with you? Everything's great. And just act normal. And so to really just let that down and not have to put the energy into faking it and have a friend or a partner who can tolerate it and not tell me everything is going to be better, not tell me it's not as bad as I think, not tell me to be grateful for what I have, but just sit in it. And it's not easy because we all want the people in our life to smile and the room to be happy. That's how we're programmed. We're people pleasers. And it's not easy for people to know what to do in those situations. But I always tell people, don't try to tell the person it's going to get better. Just let them talk or not.
Just to put a bow on what I was sharing, people have asked why we moved to North Carolina and left Hawaii, and that was the reason. And we needed to get help. We needed to be closer to family. And I had friends here in North Carolina who I could be intimate with and could sit with me and counsel and through the grief. Some leaders from our church here, and we had been friends since our time in Hawaii. And so we, without even ever being here, moved to North Carolina because I knew if I could get that right, if I could be healed and spiritually right, and then the job stuff, radio, whatever happened, if I don't even ever do radio again, I gave up my career basically to move here because I knew our family needed it.
Well, I just everything that you've just shared right now is so deep and really hits me and like in my heart. And I am so deeply sorry. I, with all of my heart. And again, I think that just being there, being like what Scotty just did, I mean, that was a leap of faith that you took. And that's why you did it, because of your faith and you believed. And you have to be around people who will let you be raw, as Alan said to me earlier. I did something so crazy yesterday. You know what I did? And I can't believe I'm saying this. I went to the grocery store yesterday. I put clothes on and I went and I made a gourmet dinner, like his crazy dinner, lots of preparation because I've been having such a hard time just getting out of bed. Just, I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do. I go through these crazy thoughts and I'm very lucky that I have Alan who lets me be raw and accepts me for me at this moment. And even you, Scotty, I called you because I wanted to ask you and I confided in you and you told me the absolute, truth about something that it was really important to me. So I do believe that you've got to be around people who love you and let them love you.
One thing that I will caution people if you are depressed or if you ever are in the future, it's not a grass is greener thing. Don't look at what Scotty just shared and say, because again, I know what that's like. I've had a trauma that happened to me 4 or 5 years ago, and I had to leave the house that I was in, and I couldn't be in there. There was just too much haunting memories and of things. And so I had to leave, but you take your emotions with you. You take your depression with you. And I think what people should garner from what Scotty said is that he knew where his good friends were. He knew where he could be real and intimate because he needed that. And
Right.
sometimes in life in LA, especially in LA, you can't always be vulnerable. Everything's got to be great. You got this going on, you got that going on, and it's like if you were sad, then you'd be bypassed or weak. And I know I'm of the same age as Scotty, pretty much around, and so we both know that showing emotions like that is weakness as men. So what do we do? Do we just go into our cave? It's dangerous sometimes to get into an echo chamber of yourself because you may be saying a lot of bad thoughts about your circumstances and hopelessness, and it's just banging around and echoing and getting worse and worse because there's no one to deflect those thoughts or contradict them. And again, I'm not saying to contradict them and like everything's great, you're wrong, but sometimes we do need a place like a therapist to be able to just get it on the table out of us so we can look at how we really feel about each component instead of globalizing it and generalizing it into complete paralysis and fatigue, like what Hudson was talking about.
Yeah. Depression is real. And I will tell you this, you're not alone. You are absolutely not alone. And we're just one message away. And I know, Alan, you have something more to say.
I just have one thing because I can tell that, Hudson, that you're getting close to a wrap. And I just want to say to the people who are listening to this, if you are depressed, think about what you need from the people in your life and tell them what you need. Don't just assume they'll know. And if there's a person in your life that's depressed, don't try to just get them out of that feeling when you're with them. Let them be in the state they're in and feel safe that they can be vulnerable with you. And so I just want to throw that out there just as a tool for people who are listening to this before you go into whatever you're going to say right now. But I just want people to know that don't think this is hopelessness forever. There is ways to help people that we love. We have to be on the lookout. Suicides are up. We have to be on the lookout for the people in our lives that are struggling.
Yeah. And I will add one of the feelings that I felt as I was going through what I went through is a bit of isolation, and it wasn't intentional, but most people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And so they're fearful of saying the wrong thing. They don't know how to proceed in your friendship and your relationship after that. So it is awkward when you're going through things, and people sometimes don't know how to help. So have a little grace for them too. Even if they say something clumsy, just say it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
They're trying, and help them. As Alan said, hey, I appreciate that, and then let them know what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you for this. Thank you. And I hope that maybe this conversation can help somebody else who's going through a similar experience because so many people are depressed right now. And I appreciate you both. And I appreciate you for listening to our podcast. Share it with a friend who might be going through it. Like, subscribe. Hudson and Scotty B need a therapist. I'm Hudson Hot, Scotty Blaisdell, and our incredible therapist, Alan Wagner. Thanks again for listening. Peace in the chicken grease.
See ya.
See you guys.